So let me tell you a tale of woe, deep down from my soul. When I was young, when I was a wee baby, I used to play some baseball, as some of the natives pronounce it. And when I played this baseball, I was amazing at it. I was the best kid on the team. I had medals all decorated throughout my bedroom, along with the baseball and football wallpaper. It was absolutely amazing. I loved every second of it. Also, to mention, I was around 7 or 8 at the time. I can't really remember, honestly. Whatever age coach's pitch is. So if you're new to baseball and you don't get anything, don't worry, I was too. There's different leagues. There's coach's pitch where the coaches pitch to you while you're batting, and then there's kids pitch when the kids pitch to you. I was in kids pitch at the time. That's me in the blue right there, swinging away as the best I could possibly be. This guy on the mound thought he could intimidate me, but he thought wrong. He thought completely wrong. I was in kids pitch at the time, and the pitcher pitches the pitch. I swing, goes all the way into right field, and the crowd just goes wild. Everyone's cheering my name. Everyone's yelling at me to run, but I don't run because I'm an idiot and I don't know the rules to baseball. But honestly, I'm still the best person out there, really. Honestly, in T-ball, it was great because the ball was just on a little stick and I never missed. I was the best at it, but whenever I hit it, it didn't go very far. It usually plopped down on the ground a few feet forward. The smug little pitcher caught it, and then he threw it to the other smug little first baseman. Ugh. But naturally, my ball was still curving as it was in his glove because I'm just that good. So the ball went past the first baseman's head, but unfortunately it made it into the field goal, which caused me to lose the game for the whole team. But fortunately, the pitcher was called for a foul. He was holding the baseball for too long. I'm pretty sure the max you can hold it at is about 5 seconds or something like that. So he called on that, and the whole thing was completely gone. It wasn't my fault anymore, which is a very interesting thing. Because usually things are my fault. Usually things don't end well for me at all. So that was basically my baseball experience in kids pitch. Let me tell you a day when everything seemed to be going okay. Now, on this very specific day, we had a game, and it was the blue team versus the red team, just for namesake. Thankfully, we were the home team, so that meant we got to bat first, fortunately. And the stupid little visitors were over there. We were going to pound their faces into the ground. It was going to be great. But then the unthinkable happens. So since they were taking field first, the visitors or the red team was throwing their baseballs with each other to warm up their arms. Even though we all threw the ball about 5 feet every time, which is absolutely disgraceful, mind you. But we were just kids at the time, honestly. They all had their gloves, they're all just throwing to each other. They looked like they were having just a grand old time. Since we were hitting first, my coach decided it would be a grand idea to have every single one of us come out of the dugout and practice our swings right in front of the dugout, all right next to each other, without a single helmet on. Yeah, my coach, I don't know what he was thinking. This was not a great idea and something was bound to happen, but for some reason it just so happened to me. I don't know why. It was just fate. That's him in the purple because purple is probably my least favorite color. So my coach was basically just like, hey guys, let's all practice our batting in front of the dugout. And so since he was our coach, we are like, all right, we got to listen to this guy. We're always the idiots. He's never the idiot. No, that's not the case. He's an adult. We should listen to him. So here's our dugout, and we were all inside of it. So the coach told us to come out and practice our swinging. Mind you, this was not a 2D dugout. This was a 3D dugout. So we all came out, and we decided to take our bats and start practicing our swinging. Honestly, we were not swinging that hard. We were just a bunch of kids. We didn't really know what the heck we were doing. But I mean, it's still a bat. It's still a metal bat, and it can do some damage. And mind you, none of us had helmets on either. So if someone just so happened to mistakenly swing a bat in the wrong direction, then something terrible was bound to happen. So we all came out with our bats swinging away without a care in the world, just thinking about dandelions or something like that, whatever T-ball players think about. So here's me in the middle. I'm blue, and this guy in the red, we'll call him Jimmy. I can't really remember what his name was, so we're just gonna call him Jimmy. He was a little bit bigger than me, but I wasn't really intimidated by him because like I was just a kid. I was like, oh, what the heck? I don't know. He's bigger than me, sure, whatever. So we were all practicing our swinging. I wasn't really the strongest kid at the time either, so I didn't swing as hard as some of the other guys probably did. So we were all just swinging away without a care in the world, and I was doing the exact same thing, just swinging over and over, practicing my swing, getting ready for the game. When the unthinkable happens, Jimmy got just a little too close to me, and I cannot remember. I honestly cannot remember if it was my fault or his fault. Probably my fault, honestly. But he came a little too close. I swung my bat with all the passion in my body, and it smacked him right dead center in his forehead. Now, once the actual hit happened, I had no idea what I hit. I just thought I hit the dugout for a second because it was such a solid stop. I thought I hit the dugout, but it turns out I hit my boy Jimmy's head square on and caused it to start bleeding. I'm surprised I didn't puncture his head. I was just a stupid kid. I might not have been swinging as hard as I could. And it was just practice, so I wasn't really taking it seriously because, again, stupid kid. I was such a stupid kid back then. I can't stress that enough. He was practicing his swinging too, and quite honestly, he was actually a pretty good player. So when this happened, the first thing that went through my head was, coach is gonna be pissed. Hit him smack dab right on his head. And it was this crack noise. Oh, I hated it. I still remember it very vividly as the first time I legitimately hurt someone on accident. So I was just standing there, shocked out of my mind. I was like, holy crap, this is happening. That just happened. And all my teammates, all my buddies just backed off and they were looking at me with the same facial reaction as mine, just absolutely astonished at what is happening at this moment. So at the time, Jimmy's reaction was actually pretty natural. He broke down on the ground and started crying, ah! Oh my gosh! Ah! But honestly, looking back, it was actually kind of hilarious in a way. Just, I know that sounds bad, but just, he started bleeding out of his head on the ground. My bat had some blood on it. It was traumatic experience for me, for little me. Honestly, everyone else was just absolutely astonished at what just happened. They were like, holy crap, why is Jimmy on the ground bleeding with a puddle of blood under him? What is happening? Because we were all just kids. We had no idea blood was even a thing. It was traumatic. I still remember it to this day. I'm not traumatized by it to this day. I still remember it though. It was terrifying. But I can't imagine how terrifying it was for Jimmy though. Oh, that's a different story right there, bud. And so the coach saw what was happening and he came over and all he did was just express this concerned facial like, "Oh. Oh, that's not good." And at the time, if I was like how I am now, I would have came straight up to him and be like, "This is all your fault, bud. This is all you." Okay, maybe not all you, but a good majority of it is you. So he came over, he looked all concerned. He was like, "Oh crap, one of my kids is bleeding." And he's got a hole in his forehead. Wow, that's terrible. Yeah, where's your mom? His mom found out about the whole kerfuffle that happened with the coach. Honestly, no one ever told her that it was his fault. No one ever told her about what he did, about how he literally told us to go outside in the batting cage in close proximity and practice our swinging. That was such a bad idea for a bunch of kids in coach's pitch. It was terrible. Oh my gosh, I cannot stress how bad a decision that was. I honestly could have been more careful myself, and I'm examining that. I'm noticing that. But it's just, Now, let me tell you about the actual injury itself, real quick. It wasn't as bad as I might have described it. It looked a lot worse than it actually was, but it honestly wasn't that bad. I'm pretty sure it didn't even penetrate his skull, which would have been terrible. But his mom found out about it, and she was one of these really concerned moms, really, I don't know the word to describe it. She was one of these really overprotective moms, I would say. But anyways, she absolutely flipped out. She called an ambulance. She called the kid's dad, who wasn't there. She called everyone that she could have. And the ambulance actually came pretty soon. So Jimmy went out into the ambulance and didn't come back out until halfway through the actual game. So I'm sitting here just causing a kid to go into an ambulance. And I was a kid. I haven't really seen ambulances, but I knew that whenever you had to call one, it was not good. So I was completely and utterly terrified of everything at that moment. I was absolutely traumatized at the moment. I was shaking. It was terrible. I had this terrible feeling that I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just killed this kid. And so my parents, this is the best part. My parents came over and they were like, "Hey, what happened, son? That kid just went into an ambulance." And I just came up to him and I said, "Oh yeah, that kid. Yeah, I hit him in the head with a bat as hard as I could." And I was expecting my parents to completely just flip out and yell at me, which is not exactly what they said. They said, "Oh, it's okay, son. It's okay. Just go play the game." And I was like, "Play the game? I just killed somebody. I just absolutely murdered somebody. I hit him in the head with a bat, and he's not coming back." No, I was just like, no, it's not okay. That's not good. That's not something you're supposed to do. That's not something the average person has to go through. It's terrible. So I was expecting my parents to maybe help me out, help me feel a little better, but all they did was completely trigger me some more. I was sitting on the bench because honestly, I'm just the best person on the team. My coach doesn't want to use me until we get to the championships. I was just sitting there on the bench, completely traumatized, thinking I killed the kid. And also, let me talk about my relationship with this kid. I didn't really like him at the time. I don't know why. We just never really got along. We tended to avoid each other, kind of. We both expressed how we didn't really like each other. So what was going through my head at the time was, this kid is stuck in the ambulance because of something I did, and he probably thinks it was on purpose as well. And that thought just completely ate my brain inside and out. So I was sitting there in the dugout, completely traumatized, trying to watch the game, but I can't because I'm thinking about Jimmy. Poor little Jimmy. He is dying in an ambulance. And my coach is just like, "Oh, it's fine. No, let's just play some baseball. Woohoo!" He's just sitting there whistling like nothing's wrong. Like he didn't do anything. He had nothing to do with this, apparently. I don't think anyone ever figured that out either. I don't think anyone ever figured out that really my coach was the reason that this kid was put in a hospital. But I was stupid at the time. I had no idea. I thought it was completely my fault. I thought because adults are never wrong. They're always right. There's nothing they ever do that's wrong. They're my parents. They're my teachers. They're my coaches. They're always right. That's not how it is. Around halftime of the game, the ambulance has been sitting there the entire time. I was wondering why it wasn't leaving. I thought it was because Jimmy was dying and they didn't want to show it to the hospital or something stupid like that. Again, stupid kid. I'm going to say that a lot. But around halftime of the game, Jimmy himself comes out with a Band-Aid on his head. A Band-Aid! I'm sitting here sweating out of my mind, feeling like I'm about to jump out of my skin, and I see him, and he's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with him. And I'm just like, hey, wait a minute. Band-Aids aren't used for when you die. They're used for when you get small cuts. That kid did not die. And I'm just sitting there like, holy crap. How? How did he not die? I guess the reason was because I don't think I hit him as hard as I really thought I did. Honestly, I was just a kid at the time. I couldn't swing that hard. If I hit him now, I probably would have killed him, depending on how old he was. So that's a good thought to have in my mind. Good thing it happened when we were wee little kids instead of now, because that would be bad. So his mom takes him out of the ambulance, and she shoots me the dirtiest look I think I've ever seen in my life. So at that moment, I was like, oh, crap. He told her. Because there was no way she could have known. She just saw her son crying on the ground, and she didn't know what happened. She was like, holy crap, get this kid an ambulance. She thought it was my fault as well. So that pretty much confirmed, that one glare, that pretty much confirmed that Jimmy thought the whole thing was my fault. So that was a nice little experience for me. I learned a lot of things. I learned not to swing your bat when you're in close proximity with other people. Well, kids, I feel like we learned a very important lesson this day. Make sure you don't drink and drive. You can kill somebody.